Good morning, Bitcoiners. This is Daniel, day 46, Citadel summer out here at the lake. Today's topic is boots on the ground. What do I mean by that? Yesterday I watched a good video by my friend Rajat. It was about the security of the Bitcoin network and how the large numbers in the private keys will keep your Bitcoin secure mathematically. It was really awesome. I recommend it. Rajat always has great videos. That man is a wizard with a spreadsheet. So I recommend taking a look at that. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. My video is about security as well. It kind of dovetails with yesterday's episode, the Soft War Bulletin, which basically I talked a little bit about Jason Lowry's thesis about soft war. If you haven't read his book, it's a good one. It's an academic thesis. It's difficult to read, but it's definitely worth it. You have to think about every page. And part of his thesis is that we have physical power and abstract power in this world, and they compete with each other. And physical power always comes out on top. The cool thing about that is the Bitcoin network is powered by physical power. That's what drives the Bitcoin network. But think about physical power as well. Physical power is like a punch to the face. You know what I mean? Physical power is a bullet being shot. Kinetic energy is related to physical power. And the reason I call this one boots on the ground is because when you create your Bitcoin Citadel, when you build your Bitcoin Citadel, because this is Citadel summer, it's about security. It's about keeping your Bitcoin safe. It's about keeping yourself safe. And it really is about physical power. Now, we're spoiled, at least here in the United States where I live, to a certain extent, because we live under the influence of Pax Americanus, the peace of the American empire, right? Just like there was a Pax Romanus way back when, around the time of, the birth of Christ, the start of Christianity, the change of the calendar from BC to AD. That lasted a long time. Pax Americanus, I do not think is going to last as long. The nation states are coming apart. There's going to be an interim period, an interregnum, if you will, between Pax Americanus and Pax Bitcoinus, right? The peace that comes from Bitcoin. And in that time, whenever the organization of violence is in flux, you have a time of warlordism. There's no other way to describe it, where the centralized power, which we have now, which keeps things relatively peaceful, loses control, and smaller local entities that we call warlords, or that's what we should call them, take precedence. And if you look at times of fourth turning, like the 20s and 30s in America, for example, when things were starting to get chaotic and things were changing, the Wild West in America, you can think back at these times right after the Roman Empire lost power in the West, because in the East, the Roman Empire never didn't for a long, long time. They had sound currency. Remember, they had I think it was a soldari, whatever. They had a very, very solid gold currency that lasted for a long time. In the West, they started to debase the currency and raise taxes, all the stuff that we're seeing in the fiat world now, and the polity fell apart, and the Pax Romanus in the West ceased to exist because the empire couldn't enforce it anymore. So there was a time of chaos, and who filled the vacuum? Local warlords did. Those guys later became the knights of the feudal era and the system was reconstituted by just having a strong man, in an area, and that strong man was the law, right? And sometimes there were better strongmen, and sometimes there were worse, and a lot of times it was really bad, and chaotic, and there wasn't much of an economy. And part of that was because it's hard to organize an economy when there's no rule of law, and it's just warlordism. So how do we deal with that? If there is, and it's not evenly distributed. It's going to be some areas that are more chaotic and more ruled by warlords than others, right? And the transition time is going to be different in different areas. So how do we get through it? I like to think of the old gangster movies from like the 30s. That's what I like to look at. Peaky Blinders. What is the one with Steve Buscemi? The Empire, Boardwalk Empire, right? The Godfather movies. All of these movies where people took local control over power, and they formed these organizations, right? Because they were being let down. The larger society wasn't protecting them, so they needed to protect themselves, and it was usually small immigrant communities that were feeling on the outside, whether they were Irish or Jewish or Italian or whatever ethnicity. And one of the cool things about that, and I don't think outlawism or gangsterism is cool, but I think that when you support when you're a warlord, if you are able to have peace within your jurisdiction and have an economy going, that's a good thing, right? Having an economy going, have a safe polity for people to raise their families, that's all good, right? Having lawlessness, not so good. And everyone is willing to pay tribute to have that kind of security. We pay it now. It's called taxes, right? In those days, in the gangsterism era and the organized crime areas, instead of paying tribute to the U.S. government, or in addition to paying tribute to the U.S. government in the 30s, right? You paid tribute to a local warlord, the mob boss, whoever the patron was of that area that you lived in. And I'm not saying that, that's an ideal way of organizing society. As a matter of fact, it's not great. But what Bitcoiners have to understand is that we are going to have our own security for a while, right? There's going to be a golden age that's coming, but I think between now and then, we need to organize ourselves. And one of the models that we can look at is the way that, these gangsters organize themselves. We don't have to be criminals to organize ourselves for self-protection. And it's not a man alone on a mountaintop, right, guarding his still. That doesn't scale very well. You need to have an organization. And a lot of times, if you look back, one of my favorite movies is Robert Altman's Kansas City. And it is about a local warlord. He's a gang mob boss, right? I think Harry Belafonte plays him. It's a really good movie. I haven't seen it in a while, but it's really good. The music is fantastic. And the guy owns a really nice nightclub. I don't know if it's a speakeasy. I think it might be a speakeasy, right? It's a bar. It's beautiful, one of those beautiful 1930s bars. And everyone dresses in a nice suit. So there's tailors and haberdashers and cobblers and, bakers. It's a little economy that's really supported by this local warlord, right? And he has all kinds of people who are his muscle and his, all that stuff. It's really kind of cool. And the musicians come in and they play all night long at his nightclub, and they're trying to solve this problem all night long, and it's this local warlords, and then this local warlord, the gangster, and the local police who are corrupt, and all this stuff is going on. But what he has is his own protection, right? He has it organized. And he has a bunch of people who served, I believe, in World War I, right? Tough guys who know how to use a Thompson submachine gun and drive a V8, Ford, and organize things and take care of business. And I'm not saying that we're going to be gangsters in the Bitcoin future, but we do have to organize ourselves for self-protection. What does that mean? Think about where you want to have your Citadel, and I think it should be in a high trust area already. Like where I live, people leave eggs on the side of the road with a little box. You put money in the box, you take your dozen eggs, and you drive away, right? Because you could leave your car unlocked with the keys in it and you'd be fine, right? It's a very high trust society where I live. So a society that's a high trust society now is going to have a better chance, I think, of coming through the end of World War III and into the golden age with less violence, with less warlordism. That's just my speculation, but I think there may be some truth to that. And you also want to organize people locally that, make friends with them, form businesses with them, find a local business like a bar, right? Or like I don't know, whatever local business, boots on the ground, physical business, boots on the ground business, right? Like a nursery, some place where people can gather and men who are tough guys who can be loyal to you, right? And who are going to be, form the basis of your security organization, and women who want to be with those men, right? To keep them stable and to keep them on the level, right? And they're going to have kids, and all of a sudden you're going to have a Bitcoin community, almost similar, not the same, but similar to the feudal communities that they had between the time that Rome fell and the industrial age, and the knights were there, right? And eventually it all got civilized, just like the Wild West got civilized, right? So we're going to enter a period like that. I think that we're going to enter a period like that. And you want to have allies, you want to have boots on the ground that buy into your vision, and now is the time for building. And when you're building and when you're protecting your own area and you have an economy going, that's how you're going to have loyalty, but you have to engage with people. Don't be some weird Bitcoin guy in the back room. That's not going to make it through, right? You have to engage with people in your community. So find a place and start to put down roots, meet people, right? So you can move forward. That's my feeling about it anyway. I guess this was a little bit of a, I think it's informative, because everyone talks about Bitcoin security, securing the Bitcoin network. But in order to hold on to your Bitcoin, you have to be secure in your person and in your family's persons, right? And in your community, right? You got to scale from there. Anyway, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace.